Well, hello there, and welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Joost Elfers for November 16th, the day of the boss. And here at the top of the page is a visual representation for the day of the boss. Well, we have us what appears to be at first glance, it looks like an eagle with a crown, but on second glance, it might just be one of them silky chickens, you know, the kind with the tufts of hair and the black legs and the black meat if you were to process them properly. I know for sure it's not Bruce Springsteen, the other boss, but in any event, hey, whatever that's meant to represent, I don't know, but it's not altogether too important. Maybe we'll make some kind of connotation as we get on with the reading. Somebody who rules the roost, ostensibly, perhaps. But in any event, what is important is it's November 16th. And it's someone's birthday today. That's right. So wishing you a happy birthday is important. So happy birthday. But if this finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be, as is often the case, considering folks, individuals are busy, if you like. You know, it's completely understandable. If that happens to be the case, well, I just want to say, I hope you had a happy birthday. But for everyone else who's joining us randomly or more ideally to celebrate the November 15th birthday, well, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Before we get into the read directly, though, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. That's right. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so we've got to live up to the namesake, right? But we do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. And hey, you know what, folks? We rolled us another 6 and a 3 for a 9. How about that? That's what yesterday's numbers were. But hey, let's go with them, shall we? So what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, it's just you getting out into the world and letting the universe show you it's with you on your path. And you do that by establishing some kind of waypost or sign, if you like. And so what better than some numbers? That's right. You're 6 and you're 3 for a 9. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled you. The intention's there. But you know what? Maybe get your own number there with the universe. But it's probably preferable, regardless the number you go with. You get you your own set of dice. You want to get directional values set up with number sets and time limits with which to go in those directions. But from wherever you start from, direction, time limit, once you reach the end of that first time limit, you stop, compose yourself, and you look for your signs. It might just be, I don't know, the number 9 bus rolls up in front of you. Hey, that's a glaring sign. And maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket to ride the bus, which would be pretty interesting if you're someone who never does as much. So you know what? Jump on there. It's your birthday. This is you're here with the universe trying to commute. See what you see. See, taste, touch, and feel the magic, if you like. So get on the bus. Maybe roll your dice, find out how long to stay on there, or maybe you just get off on the next stop, and maybe the next stop just so happens to be the number 9. It sounds like a bunch of coincidence, but a lot of times if you're getting out there with the intention, you're going to see this stuff start to line up. And you know what? Just put all that coincidence stuff to the side. You're out here to see, taste, touch, and feel the magic, am I right? So maybe you get off the bus and roll your dice, direction, time limit, and get to the end of that, and maybe you find yourself in front of a building with the number, I don't know, 63 in the address. And maybe it just so happens to be some kind of some business, if you like, that you would have never gone to otherwise, because you don't ride the bus, get to this part of town, get off on this stop, and who knows, maybe it's like a farmer's market, and you go in there, and maybe the silkies are just $6.39. I don't know, maybe that's the case. Get you a silky, you know what I mean? Sometimes the day will take on a theme. And silkies are pretty interesting animals anyway. People probably never even heard of a silky. I know I hadn't at one point. as ignorance goes. In any event, I think you get the point. You can just get out there, let the universe show you it's with you on your path. See things start to take shape, and put yourself in situations you might not have ever been in before. It's your birthday. You got to do something fun, right? In any event, I think you get the point. So let's dive on in with your birthday read, shall we? Your month is November, your day the 16th, your sign is 23 to 25 degrees Scorpio of the Scorpio III period specifically, and your quality and element is fixed water. All right, November 16th, the day of the boss. All right. Both men and women born on November 16th have a natural feeling for authority and how to wield it. Many have a reputation for being good directors or managers, whether in their family or at work. They also function well in an advisory or coaching capacity in social groups and teams to which they belong. Their command is rarely questioned, since they are wise enough to avoid arousing animosity or rebellion, and generally make decisions with the best interests of the group in mind. Yet as children or adolescents, those born on this day are often rebellious or even destructive, and may not emerge into a more mature stage until their early 30s. Fortunately, most November 16 people, by examining their own behavior, can gain insight not only into themselves, but also into the motivations, needs, and concerns of others. November 16 people are very much individuals, not overly influenced by their social circle, family, or peers. Accepting help, nurturing, or support can be difficult for them. However, they often have an active imagination, which, among other things, allows them to empathize with someone else's situation, to truly understand what someone is feeling by putting themselves in that person's shoes. And the most successful individuals born on this day have a knack for getting the job done and for establishing their own supremacy in a given field. Yet because they know how to treat people well and have a wide range of life experience, they can also make highly cooperative members of a team. It doesn't hurt that behind their outward charm, others can sense backbone and resolve, and hence think twice before needlessly opposing or confronting them. On the other hand, November 16 people enjoy competition and thus make excellent rivals for those who are on their level. November 16 people are very concerned with finding the right match for themselves as well. Choosing a life partner, both in love and business, is of the utmost importance to them, and quite often they are unable to further their career until the right person has come into their lives. Unfortunately, where love is concerned, a lot of water may have gone under the bridge before this happens. In November 16 people, they may struggle emotionally for some years. Indeed, unhappy love affairs, broken marriages, and sexual frustrations can dot the landscape of their lives. And those November 16 people who never find that right person after all can lead a rather solitary existence, and, their independent nature notwithstanding, may come to rely heavily on their family and lifelong friends for emotional support. And thankfully, they are also available to others in the same category. All right. How about that for a pretty dynamic and interesting birthday breakdown? Let's get into some notes. I like to provide a little bit of a commentary on what we've just read. Maybe connect some dots with other days that kind of fall in line and just other things I might happen to notice. So let's get into it, shall we? November 16th, the day of the boss. A natural feeling for authority and how to wield it that lends to many born on this day having a reputation for being good directors, managers, coaches, or advisors. Very interesting facet to this leadership capacity, however, at least in my mind, it often isn't the case, is that your command is rarely being questioned, as your decisions are generally made in the best interest of the group, which is not only an earmark of a good leader, at least I would argue, but in someone who is apt at problem solving, if you like, all right? Because how often are people able to implement a solution to a problem that doesn't alienate at least somebody? That said, the reading claims as children that people born on this day are often rebellious and instructive to the degree that they may not mature until their 30s. So aside from examining your own behavior, it sounds to me as though you're probably ensuring you disperse all those so-called wild oats as soon as you can, or at least in earnest, or modestly speaking. I think earnest is applied there incorrectly. Earnest means seriously. If you were serious about it, you'd probably mature at 15, I guess. But anyway, to that end, you're apparently individuals who may find it difficult to accept help and have an active imagination, which the reading posits helps you empathize, and which also lends to your ability to lead a team. Couple that with charm, backbone, and resolve. You also aren't just some glorified hand holder either, right? You know how to throw down and apparently look for competition in your field to exercise those muscles, right? Likewise, the right life partner is also a primary concern, it said, to the extent that the reading claims you may be unable to find the right career without that element in your life. That kind of support, I would say, can make all the difference, at least in a person's life, regardless how much of an individual you may just so happen to be. At least in my experience, right? It just adds a different kind of way of looking at the world and enjoying things, and your priorities kind of get divided. So maybe you can take some of your attention away from the job, and things just take on a different kind of focus. I think you get my point. If you've experienced as much, you know what I'm talking about. But the reading also examines this dynamic from the perspective of little movement in that area, right? And while I don't know if I agree with those results, I think someone can still be successful without a life partner. It's an interesting thing to consider, even if only as a potential warning about as much. Living a life of solitary confinement, if you like. But it also said you find friends and family to help compensate for that, if that happens to be the case. But in any event, hey, that was your birthday breakdown. A little redundant there, but I thought I threw in some interesting elements to consider. But that being said, with your birthday breakdown being examined, let's move on to your numbers and your planets. All right. Those born on the 16th of the month are ruled by the number 7, as 1 plus 6 equals 7, and by the planet Neptune. And despite the fact that those ruled by the number 7 often fail to carry through their ideas and can get out of touch with reality easily, such problems exist only for less mature, unevolved November 16 people. The Plutonic aspects of their sign, as Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, usually ensures a firm grip on objective, particularly financial, reality. However, less highly evolved, November 16 people may follow the tendency of many ruled by the number 7 to throw caution to the winds financially and leave their families financially embarrassed. Interesting. All right, hey, they seem to focus quite a bit on the number aspect in this entry. They don't often do that. I don't even want to have to say here. The number 7 and the dreamy planet Neptune. I know they didn't say dreamy, but it is. The reading conveys a very personalized relation of issues that may plague lesser evolved individuals, at least as ruled by 7. What with failures to carry through on ideas and getting out of touch with reality. To wit, the reading seldom relates very much about number rulerships, so it's interesting that they did that here. But also rather anomalous in conveying these setbacks here with such things would usually appear in the breakdown. They don't normally convey the lesser evolved stuff in the numbers and planets. It might be the first time they've done it. They usually earmark that for the breakdown. So that one threw me a little bit there. But Pluto is said to ensure an objective reality with money, unless you're one of them lesser evolved 7 rule types. But precious little is mentioned here, however, unfortunately, as I would have liked to have seen how Pluto and Mars influence Neptune. I don't think they mentioned Mars as your co-ruler either for Scorpio. Pluto usually employing the darker realms and the shadowy side of things, and Mars the more angry and aggressive aspects. But they didn't say how that would influence Neptune one way or the other. So a little bit of a missed opportunity there, I would argue. Particularly since, like I said, Pluto tends to have dark influences and Mars aggressive. But it might speak to your ability to empathize with others, I'd argue. At least if I were to guess. Something about Pluto lending an insight into the Scorpios, it lends to that in my mind. You know, you understand those darker aspects of human nature. You're able to empathize with folks who might be dealing with that, right? And you're probably able to also see the positive a little bit easier than people who haven't experienced the darkness, right? At least in my mind. So maybe that lends to your empathetic side. In any event, that's been your numbers and planets. So let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies in a lot of people's minds. But hey, it's your birthday. Let's expand our horizons. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards and letting it influence our every whim and life decision. So let's just see what it has to say. Let's get into it here. The 16th card of the major arcana is the Tower. Which in one version of the tarot deck shows both a king falling from a lightning-struck tower and the builder of this tower being killed by a blow to the head. The tower symbolizes the impermanence of not only physical structures, but also of relationships or vocations in our lives. The changes wrought may be sudden and swift. And the positive elements of this card include overcoming catastrophe and confronting challenges. However, the tower cautions against rising unjustifiably high, risking destruction at the hands of one's own invention, and succumbing to the lure of fanciful enterprises. Thus, November 16 people are reminded by the tarot to beware of dubious endeavors. All right. Personalize this one for you a little bit here. Just a little, but the tower's a little bit of a lengthy description anyhow. Let's see what I had to say about your tarot here. The Tower for impermanence in relationships as well as vocations. Changes that are sudden and swift, with positives of overcoming confrontation and such changes, but a warning of succumbing to the lure of fanciful enterprise. Other Tower days make mention of learning from the mistakes of others, as being an example of what the card can serve to represent. But I would also say it speaks to the idea of the problem solving I mentioned earlier. Also avoiding the kind of hubris that makes for the kind of leaders that end up arousing antagonism. That's right. You get too high on your tower there, you're apt to fall. And the fall might then kill you. Who's to say? Or if you do survive, maybe the people at the bottom that you've antagonized are apt to kill you. That's right. It's any event. That's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right. Those born on November 16 must be careful of sedentary ailments, particularly back problems, poor elimination, and a tendency to gain weight. Following a strict regimen of exercise for a given time each day is therefore essential to good health. They must beware of overeating, particularly rich foods with too much butter or cream. Overstressing their digestive system, liver and pancreas can lead to gallbladder from fat, liver from alcohol, psoriatic maybe, and diabetic from sugar. Problems in their 40s. The use of herbal teas and infusions can in some cases benefit them greatly. All right, hey, what do I have to say about your health here? Careful with sedentary ailments. Too much sitting, I'm guessing, from all that leading, right? What else we got here? Lack of elimination as well, it said. But a strict daily exercise regimen is apparently essential. Now, this isn't something that they relate all the time. You'd think they would, because it's just general good advice. But it's not something they make mention of all too often. Also with too much butter or cream, for that matter. That's a new one, I think. Perhaps on account of overstressing the elimination system. Again, but they also say herbal teas and infusions might help. I think that's a new one. Though what kind of infusions it doesn't say, so that's up to you to figure out. I looked it up and it just means they inject things into your veins there. So I don't know. Supplements maybe. Though cash never hurts, right? As far as infusions are concerned, dependent upon your definition of infusions. Any event, hey, that's been your health. Pretty interesting they drilled down on the diet so much, so maybe take note. They haven't done that for the past few days. Yesterday they did, but like the week before that, no mention of diet. It was all psychological stuff leading to physical ailments. So maybe that gets mentioned here, because that seemed to be a through line with the Scorpios. But let's find out when we dive in with your advice. Okay, your advice. Always keep the interests of others in mind. Act responsibly and exercise your authority wisely. Do not give in to power urges. Watch out for sabotage, but don't get paranoid, and remain both calm as well as alert. All right. What I have to say about your advice? No psychological stuff mentioned. They drilled down mostly on that leadership stuff, which I find very important. But in any event, what we got here? Always keep the interests of others in mind. One of your strengths, I would argue, based on the breakdown. So don't devalue it. Don't lose sight of it. It's huge. Act responsibly with authority. Another strength of yours they mentioned. They also related the pitfalls with the lesser evolved in that regard. Watch out for sabotage. Interesting. Not sure why they mention that, but if you get a lot of respect from your subordinates, especially too. But I guess it's just good practice in general. Good earmarks of a good leader. Keeping a pulse on things. But do it within reason. You might stand to alienate folks if they catch you looking for sabotage around every corner, right? Be calm but alert. That speaks to that also. But apt advice for anyone too. But particularly those in leadership, all right? It helps to maintain your supremacy and your strong backbone, and you're not going to alienate folks if you just, dropping the hammer on them on any given whim for some screw-up or something. Nobody wants that. But you got to show a little backbone, right? Anyway, calm but alert. Looking for that sabotage, if you like. In any event, that's been your advice, so let's move on to your meditation. That's right, your meditation. All right, this one's real quick and easy. Supremacy is relative. Oh, a lot of value, I would argue, though. Supremacy is relative. All right, your birthday, your meditation, I'm not going to throw my interpretation or spin on it. That's just for you. But that being said, with the meditation in the can, as it were, let's move on to your strengths and weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up that objective mirror and do the work. See where we have things in spades and see where we're at a deficit there. All right, your strengths. Oh, here we go. You're authoritative, you're effective, and you're understanding. All right. Good things in leadership. That's right. But what do we got for your weaknesses? Oh, let's hold up that objective mirror, but flip it to the other side where it blows up your face so we can see all the blemishes and the wrinkles there. All right, not that those are weaknesses, but you get my point. You're self-involved, you're unsettled, and you're isolated. Oh, self-involved. I didn't really get that one too much. Unsettled. Maybe. What with the Pluto's dark influences there? And isolated. They talked about that if you don't have that special someone in your life. You know what? All those things are things that can be rectified. That's right. Especially if you're understanding. And it says you're effective. I don't know about authoritative. It's going to help in any of those. But you know what? Some folks like authority. They like to be bossed around a little bit. So maybe that finds that special someone for you. So maybe your strengths help quash all your weaknesses. In any event, that being said, let's move on to those born on this day. And when we get on to those born on this day, not only we get to see who shares your company, but I like to segue and examine something I find important, and that's figuring out our passions. Too often I get out in the world and meet folks and ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, they don't. Or you can read it on their face that they don't. And who can blame them? You get out of school, right into a job, and you know what? There's no time to figure out what you want to do with your life or what your passions are. It requires time and work to figure those things out in a lot of cases. Or if you do know what your passions are, it requires time and work to figure out how to make them financially viable. And sometimes we get into a job where it's easy because we've been doing it from the start, and we just keep going up that corporate ladder, making that money, putting the food on the table and the roof over our head. And you know what? We just kind of let our passions or our desires go by the wayside. So it's understandable, but I feel this is the perfect opportunity to examine that by seeing what other folks did to get themselves in the book, to get themselves a little bit of notoriety. It might not have been their passions, but hey, maybe it can help stir up the fires of our own in that regard. At the very least, I'm putting the worm in your ear about it, or the bug if you like, and so maybe that stirs up the fires. So let's get into it. Those born on this day. We have W.C. Handy, the father of the blues, an African-American folk singer, innovator, composer, arranger, publisher, and a pianist. We also have Anglianolo di Cosmini. It says Tu Bronzino, Florentine Medicini, 16th century portrait painter. Maybe you can make heads or tails of all that. I just got the portrait painter aspect of it. We have Tiberius, the Roman emperor in general. Sends in some leaders here. Let's see if we if we further on with some. Burgess Meredith, the stage and film actor, was Rocky's coach, if you remember. Also, the Penguin, an old Batman show there. We have Dwight Gooden, a baseball pitcher and Rookie of the Year, Triple Crown Cy Young Award winner. George S. Kaufman, Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. Paul Hindemith, a German composer, methodologist. We have Chinua Achebe, a Nigerian poet, novelist of Athils of the Savannah. We also have Philip D. Reed, a General Electric Board chairman, Federal Reserve Bank chairman for another leader. We got here Adrian St. John, U.S. Army Major General. Edie Condon. We have a Dixieland swing guitarist and banjoist. Lisa Bonet, TV actress. Melvin Patton, U.S. Olympic 200-meter gold medal sprinter. Somebody who's running there. Frank Bruno, British and European heavyweight boxing champion. Antonio Gladys, or Gladys perhaps, a dancer. Mary Margaret McBride, broadcast journalist. Anne McLaughlin, Reagan Labor Secretary. James E. Gropey, activist Catholic priest and jailed in the 60s. Sir Oswald Mosley, British Labour Party minister and a fascist leader. Hey, you know, not all the leaders are good ones, right? And we have Elizabeth Brenner Drew, a journalist and a writer. And that rounds out those born on this day. Like I said, a lot of leaders, a couple artists in there. You know, who knows where you're going to take your inspiration from if you needed it in the first place. But hopefully I put the bug in your ear about finding your inspiration for your passions. It just makes life more tolerable, I would say. And who doesn't want to be doing literal or figurative backflips out of bed to get into their day? I hope that for you, if anything, for your birthday there. I hope that for you. But that being said, that's been those born on this day, which essentially rounds out your birthday reading. Except to say, once again, your season is fall, although that's the first time I've said that. Your sign is Scorpio, the Scorpio III period specifically, and your quality and elements is fixed water. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's a different video altogether, and you'll see that video pop up in the end cards there, or you can search it on the channel. But that essentially rounds out your birthday reading. And this has been a November 16th, Day of the Boss. That's you, I'm assuming. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and UST Elfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description. Save you the hassle of having to type it in a browser there, and you support the channel in the bargain too if you go through there. But yeah, pick yourself up a copy if you're interested in diving in further, finding out all the other days of the year, even February 29th, the day of the leap year there, and your zodiac signs and all that other stuff. But it makes a great coffee table edition or something to grace your bookshelf. Hey, it's going to get the party started if you like to have some company over. Get the ice broken in a figurative or literal fashion, considering its size, right? But in any event, that's not what's important here. What's important, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So happy birthday. And for everyone else who joined us to celebrate, that's right. I just want to say, I hope you enjoyed yourselves and you join us for your birthday read. But lest we forget, that's right, your daily numbers. That's right, your 6 and your 3 for a 9. Get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path. See, taste, touch, and feel the magic. You got to do something fun and special on your birthday. But you know what? Even if you don't see your signs, at least you're out there trying, right? And at the very least, you're getting in that daily exercise regimen they recommended. That's right. It's important. Daily, apparently. Any event, hey, once again, happy birthday. Keep being the boss. You know what? Keep representing people. You know what? I can remember all the leaders who took care of me in that regard when I was out there in the military. And I'll hold it hard to my heart there. Very much so. Versus those other ones who were authoritarians and they dropped the hammer. No respect for them, all right? Not as people, anyhow. In any event, that's just what I had to say about it. Once again, happy birthday.